The creator of the world created us masculine and feminine. And like, how cool is that? I can do both. I can pull out my sword just as fast as my smile, and I can handle that. And so why be limited when we are so profoundly powerful? I can have my own reality sitting here, and you can have your own reality sitting here, and that they're both okay. You know, the minute that I can accept responsibility for what I choose to be real for me, I have taken the first step.
Well, the last episode was such a success that I had to do a part 2. And when I was really looking at the feedback of what everybody resonated with, one of the things, women coming up to me, telling me they resonated so much, was the talk about femininity and masculinity and really embracing your feminine power. So there's one thing I really want to distinguish here, because I also noticed, people get offended by everything, but some people thinking that embracing femininity is being a 1950s housewife and kind of old-fashioned, whereas you are what people would, I hate this term, but call a boss babe, that whole term. And you're maybe what people would consider an alpha female. You're career-driven, but you're so feminine. And I want to just maybe have you explain that distinction between the two.
I think, first of all, the 1950s housewives, my hat off to you. Because I have tremendous respect for what the 1950s women also accomplished. And so it should never be considered a backward choice to choose family, to choose children, to choose being married, to choose having your career being the greatest honor, which is to have children and to raise them well. So my hat off to women who did make those choices. I also want to empower women to know that we have many choices and that one does not preclude the other, right? It doesn't mean that if I choose family, if I choose to get married, if I cannot choose to have a career as well. Women are extremely powerful, and we're so multifaceted, and we're so multidimensional and capable of multitasking. And so why not? Why not be women who can have it all and do it graciously and do it beautifully and enjoy all of that? I think we limit ourselves when we think it's an either or. I think the feminine power is in the ability to not only make it phenomenal for yourself, but also to include the people you love in your life in that success and in that ability to drive life forward. And feminine energy is capable of all of that. And it's also capable of making our world more beautiful, more organized, more elegant, more kind. And I think feminine energy is also about caring about other people. And I think our world really needs a lot more caring and kindness. Because I'm watching people losing some of that. And I watch kids, there's a lot of violence and inhumanity in a lot of the video games that the kids these days have access to. And I think our kids are being trained at a very young age to kind of laugh at violence or laugh at murder or laugh at decapitations or think of it as a game, whereas these things are very serious things. And I think feminine energy balances all of that and kind of brings a kinder, more humane energy to the world, to taking care of animals, to taking care of our environment, to beautifying the world. And so I'm all for it.
Me too. I want to touch on something with a 1950s housewife, because I completely agree with you. What more important job is there than raising children? But I think where some women, maybe feel like triggered or don't want to go backwards was there that expectation that you had to do it in heels and makeup and a dress and you weren't able to do certain things? But there's almost like, do you think you could find power in that as long as it's your choice? There's a difference, right? I think there's a lot of demonizing femininity, maybe when it isn't your choice. But if it is your choice, you can embrace it. You don't have to fight it.
Right. Look however you want, dress however you want. And I think choose your own expression of femininity. It doesn't have to look one way. I can certainly take all of the makeup off and the jewelry off and the high heels and just as well, walk barefoot and wear sweats and still maintain the feminine energy.
So true.
So I think once people put feminine energy into that, they're limiting themselves because it's really not that way.
I agree. It's it's just in your essence, right? And it's in the kindness, it's in the softness, it's in the grace. I think we assume it's just wearing a dress and makeup and heels.
And I don't know when being kind and loving became weak.
Agree.
Or really, really caring about the people in your life became codependency. Like, that word became evil. Whereas I think codependency means I really care about how you feel or what you think or what goes on with you. I'm concerned. You're important to me. What's going on with you matters to me. When did that become a disease? I mean, and if it is, then I guess I'm codependent.
Yeah, why it's considered a sign of weakness to really care about yourself. I actually remember a friend of mine back in LA when I was in my young 20s, and she was like, when did love, like, why is love desperation? Like, why is showing love and affection a bad thing? Everyone was calling her like desperate or insecure. And I'm like, that's such a good point. It always stuck with me.
Right.
And I feel like when you feel the most safe, you actually express the most love.
And it's kind of confusing, right? So we have the me generation, like all about me being important. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think me is definitely important. But you are also important. And I think when I practice that whatever I don't want for myself, that if I don't want to be disrespected, if I don't want to be disregarded, if I don't want to be bullied, if I don't want to be ignored, if I don't want to be abused, if I don't want to be abandoned, then I also don't want that for you. Really not doing to other people what you don't want done to yourself, and not wishing on them what you don't want anyone wishing for you. So I think we'll have a much kinder society. And yes, part of that is feminine energy, but I also think masculine energy is also downgraded a lot, where it's not okay to be a caring man, a provider, a protector, a defender, where, whatever's going on with you, I'm not going to risk it or get involved. Whereas men used to be gallant and really look out for the person who may not have been able to defend themselves. And since when did that become wrong?
Right.
Right? So men are also put in that position where it's very confusing, like, how do I really be the best of myself? And where does masculine energy then come in?
Obviously your workshops are 3 days, right?
Yes.
It's intensive. It's many hours. So getting into a lot of the detail here is not possible. But I want to if you could just give us a little something of what you teach. I mean, there's one for women and there's one for men.
Yes.
So you teach the women. I mean, the first one we learned about men. The second one we learned about ourselves.
Right.
So what are the different things you teach women about I mean, we've covered a lot of that, but men about masculinity, because I also want to cover that. We touched a lot on feminine power the first time.
Yes.
But I always love conversations with you because you love men. There's no,
I love men.
I hate male bashing. I actually find it very frustrating because it's not
Well,
fair
it's demeaning to us.
to
well.
us.
Yeah,
Explain.
Yeah, because, you know, I demean myself when I demean men, because it says something about me as a woman that I find it necessary to put down men. There's something not okay with me that I need to do that. So what do I teach women? Well, the first thing I start out with women is having them look at where power and control are distinguishable from each other, right? So a lot of people want control and it becomes an addiction, but control has distinctions like being a victim, so that you control how much love and attention you can get from people, and people feeling sorry for you or helping you out because you're helpless or you can't take care of yourself, and you blame other people for what's not working for you, or right? So
This
you're
is
the
a good
victim
refresher
of,
for me. It's
right?
been a few years.
So it's your fault if my life isn't working out,
Right.
and if I'm feeling badly, and you're supposed to fix it, right? If anything happened in my life, it's my parents' fault. They did it to me, right? My inner child was hurt, or all of that, right? So the victim, then if the victim doesn't work, I go to my next control strategy, which is to isolate and silence, go on the silent mode, and like, I'm not gonna answer you, and I'm just gonna go to my room and be quiet. Teenagers do this a lot now. You know, I'm just gonna like, or I'm gonna ghost you, right? Or I'm not gonna answer, or I'm gonna block you, or you're out of my life, or I'm just gonna disappear on you and stuff like that. Or I'm gonna become a bully, and I'm gonna throw a temper tantrum, and I'm going to threaten you, and I'm gonna make your life miserable, and, you know, I'm gonna make sure that you know I'm in charge, and, you know, or I'm gonna start interrogating you and why you to death, because everything you say, I'm gonna question you so that you know I'm smarter than you. And anyway, if you tell me something, don't you have your own faults? Didn't you make mistakes? Do you have all the answers? You know, people a lot of times control each other that way.
The interrogation is so unattractive, and anyway, and whenever a
But
female
it's
does it,
also
a male
very
does,
sneaky.
it's sneaky, but it's such a turnoff. I don't know. I think it's
Right.
just it's a lot. It's intense, and it doesn't actually get you anywhere.
But it is very smart and sneaky, because you're always trying to figure out what the other person's weak point is, and like penetrate and start questioning them so they can question themselves. It is a very sneaky control strategy. And if none of those work, there's always the clown, the entertainer, the jokester, the one who can, you know, make it light and joke about things, and right. So one of the things that I teach people is control strategies literally run our lives. And we don't know anything other than to control, and we become addicted to it, because this is the way we have figured out from the age of 2, since we got language, how to control other people to get love and attention and approval. And if we can't get that, then we'll do it by whatever means of control, right? So I teach people about control strategies as a means of not saying that control is so bad, but that control leads to depression, it leads to anxiety, it leads to drug use, it leads to feeling bad, it leads to fighting, it leads to feeling isolated in your life and lonely. Your relationships don't work with control. So once I start showing people how much control has really ruined their relationships, then people become thirsty for, well, what else is there? well, then I start distinguishing, well, becoming a powerful person is there. And power has its own distinctions, right? Integrity, being your word, being somebody who, when you say something, you actually really do what you say you're going to do and you stand by your word. That is the magical key to like having all the power in the world. And people who have become really powerful in their lives is because they keep their word. And you begin to see like, wow, yeah, like I trust people who keep their word. I also know how not to mess with them because they will keep their word. And those people actually get somewhere because they keep their word. Oh, and then I count on people who keep their word. Oh, and then they count on themselves because they keep their word. Wow, that really is powerful.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's everything.
I'm thinking about you as you're saying
Right.
that. Literally, like what? That's why she's so powerful.
Of me because I keep my word.
It's like it's a respect thing. I feel like we all respect you, and you just really explained it. You keep your word so much, and it's with all the growth I've done, I've come so far. But this is still something that I struggle with: is always keeping my word. Yeah. Especially in a world where I have options where I can, like I work from home, I can be flexible. I don't have to punch in somewhere. And then it gets tricky because it leads to unhappiness.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that.
No. And the most important person, like you said, the second workshop is about, well, it isn't about other people and me keeping my word with them. We begin to realize, oh my God, my whole life I didn't keep my word with me. The person I've betrayed the most. And then that's a whole other ballgame. But one of the pillars of power is keeping your word and honoring yourself and having integrity and being whole and complete with yourself. And then realizing that really so much of your life has fallen apart because you don't keep your word with yourself and with other people. And you lose faith in yourself because you can't. And there is no discipline in that. So then that's like even just the beginning of power. But then also, once you begin to glimpse at integrity, what else becomes obvious about human power is being 100% responsible. Now, this is where people hate me, literally. Like, it's not a likable situation because I take away their ability to be victims. And the minute you're 100% responsible, all of a sudden, there's no one to blame. Like, no one, but like literally for nothing in your life, not even the abuse, nothing. Like even your birth now becomes your responsibility. And that's tricky. Like, did I choose to be born? And this is where the argument gets really sweet in the workshop, because I actually go into proving to people that yes, they chose their parents and they chose to be born. And it is a very profound wow moment where people literally realize that yes, they did choose everything in their life. So then the other pillar of power is about communication and self-expression, and how integral to our divinity and our power is the ability to communicate from our hearts, not from our heads, but like literally connect on a soul level with everybody and everything in the world, and to really partner up with the entire universe. And we have the profound power to literally become everything's partner. And once you realize what communication really is all about, you just can't stop yourself. Like the profound power of partnering with the universe becomes available. And it's a spiritual experience at the highest level. So I start people out with the baby steps. I don't go to like partnership with the universe immediately. That's like the 18th course. But like the
you and I have
initial
gotten
workshop
there.
is about, let's just start over here with like communicating with another human being would be nice, right? But just like really communicating, not hiding myself or showing you something about myself so you like me, but like really authentically sharing myself with you. How about that? And it's so powerful, so incredibly powerful. And then the next pillar of power that immediately becomes available is a sense of belonging, right? Because if I can authentically be me and you can authentically be you, how much more intimate and close can we get? Because then it really becomes being able to belong with people, not just like be there with them in the room but not feel anything, or not really connect with people, but literally connect with people. And that for me is everything, that sense of belonging, because we spend so much of our life that we can't belong with each other. And we can like be even with our own families and not belong. And what a loss that is. You know, like how much of our Thanksgivings and Christmases have we just spent but not spent? We were there, but we weren't there, and we couldn't wait to get away because there was no sense of belonging. So my intention has been to make people so profoundly powerful that they are that related to each other. So there is really no distance, and intimacy then becomes available, but really to the true sense of the word. And then the other pillar of power that naturally became available to me, and this one was so hard. I missed it for years. In your workshop, I didn't have it.
Okay. I was just thinking, can I go to another workshop and like volunteer? Because I'm like just soaking this all in right now. I forgot so much of this.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yes. And your Farsi got so much
My
better.
Farsi got
remember.
better. Oh, but for any you guys listening, I offered to volunteer for a course because I had done both of the workshops, and I thought it would be good for me to volunteer. And then I realized it was in Farsi. So of course
You did so well.
I called Dr. Sayan. I'm like, I can't come. She's like, you gave me your word. You're coming. And I was like, okay. I came, and I did so good. Anyway, it was still powerful to be there. My Farsi's a lot better now than it was
What you
then.
should know about Mona is she can walk in a room and everybody will love her. So she doesn't have
sweet.
to say anything or do anything. Just be herself.
You did, I will say though, thank you. And you did teach me, you have taught me the power of just somebody's essence. And you've always told me that. And it took years for me to understand, like just being yourself is that powerful. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to talk about my career. It's just how you carry yourself in a room. So thank you.
Thank you. So should I tell you the fifth one?
Yes.
Because you weren't there for it?
Yes.
So one of the things that really rocked my world, and I found it missing in our armor of being powerful beings, is loyalty. Loyalty is so rare. Like true loyalty. And then I realized loyalty has levels. And it blindsided me because I kept saying, what's missing? What's missing? What's missing? How come I'm teaching people so much, but like what's missing? Something is missing. And when I say 5 pillars of power, there's many more, but at the basic level. And then I realized, you know, loyalty is like, your loyalty at the lowest level is to the convenience store that's like right there. But you're loyal not because you're loyal, but because it's convenient, right? So we have loyalty at the lowest level because it's convenient, right? And then there are other tiers of loyalty. So it's your loyalty to like, you know, Qatar Airways because they give you the best service and miles.
Emirates.
Right?
I love Emirates so much.
Right? So it's because they give you something that you're loyal to them, and that something that they give you makes it like, so you're loyal to them because you get something, right? And sometimes our loyalties even to our spouses are because of what comfort they provide or what they give us. And then there's loyalty to like the Jets, you know, or the Celtics,
Yeah.
right? Should I be saying Celtics here?
No,
Okay. No, not in this house. But I mean, you know, like the team, and it doesn't matter how much they lose, you're still like, I'm a Celtics fan, right? You know, I've moved away from Boston like 25 years ago. They still ask me like, are you a Lakers fan? I'm like, no, the Celtics.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Right?
Okay.
So, but it's like that, right? You know, I lived in Iran 48 years ago. They still ask me which team. I'm like, Persepolis. Of course. What do you mean? Right? So it's Socrates, right? So it's about a loyalty that's unreasonable. And you're like, no matter what happens, I'm loyal to that. And then there is a level of loyalty that comes with a willingness to sign a contract that is not negotiable. And you will never betray that contract. That's like the highest level of loyalty. And some of us, when we grow to a higher level of whatever you want to call it, all of a sudden you become aware that there's a loyalty and there's a contract that you've signed that you cannot betray to yourself, but also to life and who you're going to be for life and who you're committed to being in this life. And then something happens to you. And that loyalty, you just can't do anything about it. You are bound by that loyalty, by that contract of who you're being. And then the rules are no longer rules, they're commitments. And nobody has to remind you, right? You just live that way.
Like waking up early or showing up to work or what? What kind of rules?
The rules of humanity, the rules of being kind and generosity and discipline and fate. And it becomes almost unshakable, like you're standing on a place that there's nothing underneath you and yet you're solid. Right? So I teach that in the workshops, but you know, you can teach principles, but they don't really mean anything unless people right then and there in that 3 days have to put it to practice so that they realize what they really are. So that's the first day of the workshop. What I just The second day of the workshop is about finding out masculine and feminine energies and how much we really don't know about those two energies and what it takes to dance together, to have it inside of yourself that you are both masculine and feminine, and like letting up on the prejudice that one is better than the other, and like falling in love that they both rock.
Yep.
And without both of them, we're really incomplete beings. And then finding out that it's so gorgeous and delicious to have both masculine and feminine inside of you, and then being reminded that the story of Genesis was actually that the world and the creator of the world created us masculine and feminine. And like, how cool is that? Right?
So you can tap
I'm
into
masculine
either.
and feminine, and I can do both. I'm not limited. I can pull out my sword just as fast as my smile. And they both rock, and I can handle that, right? And so why be limited when we are so profoundly powerful? So then the second day of the workshop, for the women, I invite men because it's not enough for me to tell them what men are all about. I have to prove it, right? So the men come and the women sit there and they're like, wow, I never saw guys like this. Now, because you've been trained now, so all of a sudden you're looking at men like, oh, I never noticed that about them.
They're so amazing.
They're so amazing.
Yeah.
They're
we
so
love
cool,
them.
right?
It's
They're my heroes.
admiration.
But there's something else too. I look at the women and they're sad because they really didn't get it before. And they've like so gone the wrong way with guys. And now it's like, oh, wow, how do I fix this? And it's really overwhelming at some level, right? Because like, what a mess. Like for myself, I had literally a field of frogs in my life because there were so many princes and kings that I had met and kissed and like turned them into frogs. I wasn't the other way around. I wasn't like kissing the frog and making kings. I was like, as Alison Armstrong says famously, I was a frog farmer. Like I had so many frogs, you know. And I had, when I woke up, it was like I literally need to go like make amends to all the men in my life because I really messed up. And I look at the women and it's like such a familiar look, like, oh my God, what have I done with all the men in my life, right? Such a terrible mess. And realizing how fantastic men are. And then the third day of the workshop, which is the most important part of the workshop. And for the men, I invite women. And what's cool about men, which is why I love men, you know, women, they argue with me like, you don't know my husband, you don't know my brother, no, you don't understand, my dad was not like that. Women argue with me about men. You know what's amazing about men? They never argue with me about what I tell them about women. They just shake their heads. And what they want more than anything else is, wow, I wish I knew this. And now that I know this, I'm going to go out of here and really make it okay with all the women in my life. Whereas women, a lot of times, it's really hard for them to realize they've been wrong. Men don't have issues with that. They do put their pride aside a lot.
I love the men that go to those workshops.
I know, me too.
So much respect. I mean, the amount of value, because so many men don't understand women.
No, and they're very good about it. They're like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And then when I tell them, they're like, oh my God, where was all this information? Why didn't they teach us in school? It would have prevented me from so much heartache.
Right.
Right? Like, and then, you know, truth be told, we are complex, problematic creatures focused on problem finding and problem solving as women, whereas men are solution oriented.
Yes, I've noticed that.
You know? And so like if you tell a man what's going on with you and like you're suffering, immediately how they think is, okay, let me give you a solution. Whereas as women, we don't want your solution. We just want to talk about our problem. And we want to talk about our problem to death. And like, can you just shut up and listen to my problem? And like, don't give me a solution because did I ask you for one? Did I ask you for a solution? Literally. Like, we really want to take your head off if you give us a solution. Because what I need is I need to talk about my problem. And you need to listen to my problem. And then when I'm done talking about my problem, I'm good. Because I just got it out. And that's what I wanted. And it doesn't make sense to the male-oriented brain because it's like, why are you talking about it if you don't want a solution? Why are we wasting time talking about this problem?
I have a good friend of mine who her husband, he really, and he goes into it hard. He's like serious. It's like a business discussion where he's like, here's a solution. And she's like, I just want him to like be a little emotional about it. She doesn't even mind the solution as long as he's listening.
Which is why therapy was invented.
Yeah, exactly.
Freud just would have us lie down on the couch and talk ourselves to death.
Yep.
Without a solution.
You told me that once when I came in for a session, you were like, you're a sharer. And I was like, oh, is that good or bad? You're like, it just is. You like to share. And I'm like, you're right, I do. And I've always embraced it because even when I tell a story, I'm going to tell you every little detail. I just like to share everything.
Right. Yeah. And you have to ask a woman permission to give her a solution. And then you also tell a woman, I'm certain that you have the solution. What do you think would solve this for you? And sometimes she'll say, I'm good. I talked about it. I don't need a solution. And that might be the case, you know? But really ask women if they want a solution. Don't just like barge in with us. You know, so the third day of the workshop is really all about getting to know ourselves and why we've created the life that we've created. Because every life has a purpose. We never just got born to be here without having a life purpose. And so the third day of the workshop is about you reviewing your life, because the minute you review your life purpose was there all along. You just missed it. And every life has a purpose. And it's so blatant that even your parents are part of your life purpose. They are who they are because of your life purpose. And they had to be who they are because of your life purpose, which is a little bit incredible because it makes all those therapy sessions that you spent crying about your parents kind of pathetic, really. Because it was meant to be like that. And that's the wow of the workshops, because people all of a sudden become so powerful. They're like, oh my God, you know, I have all this power. I made all these choices because I'm going to be this really strong person. I overcame all of these situations. You know, all of a sudden, so much begins to make sense. Rape begins to make sense. Abuse begins to make sense. Illnesses begin to make sense. You know, everything falls into like this thing that you all of a sudden realize, wow, I am this intentional, powerful being who created this phenomenal adventure called my life so that I can become this phenomenal being that I am right now. And then you're no longer a victim of your life. You are the creator of your life. And then, so at the last part of the workshop, I have a surprise for everybody. For the women, I have them realize the archetypes. You know, the archetypes of the warrior woman, the spiritual woman, the seductress woman, and the mother, right? And where they fall in these archetypes. Where is their strength? Where is their weakness? And then how out of balance are they with their archetypes? Because all the archetypes need to be in balance for you to have your femininity really operate. So if your warrior is out of whack and you're too much of a warrior, or if you are too much of a seductress and not enough of a warrior so you can't defend your boundaries, or if you're too spiritual and not enough of a seductress, or if you're too much of a mother and you don't have the other ones in balance. So then I take them into the next workshop where I balance the archetypes and teach them about sex and sexuality and how big sexuality is part of our lives. Sexuality is the spiritual essence of human beings. We need to understand it. And so much of it is misinformation these days, you know? And so the next workshop, the advanced workshop, is about forgiving yourself and what you've done to yourself and how wrong you've been about yourself and what an incredible, phenomenal being lives inside of you and how much you haven't understood yourself. So, yeah, there are advanced levels. And then the men, the surprise I have for men is, you know, men don't develop like women. Women are born with their archetypes, so they just develop along the lines of their archetypes. Men actually advance along a certain gradation of masculinity, so they have to go follow these steps to fulfill on their manhood. And so then I teach them about that. And it's so crazy because I look at their faces and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm developing along these lines, right? I'm totally going along these lines and growing and developing into my manhood. And it's really delicious. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to share about something that I'm very passionate about.
Can I ask you a bunch of follow-ups to all of that?
Sure.
It was so powerful to go, so I wanted to wait till after. Okay, first, my question on doing what you say you're going to do in integrity. This is one that stuck out to me. So speaking personally, I know that when how do I stop myself, or how do people stop themselves from getting into that position where, let's say I'm like, I'd love to see you for dinner next week, come over one day. And then we get to the next week and I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm looking at my calendar, I actually don't have any time free for dinner. Then you're in a pickle with the person. Do you have to just watch what you say? How do you balance that and make sure?
Well, my experience is that words and thoughts and feelings, whether you realize them or not, create reality. So, yes, I really think that when you're 100% responsible, you don't actually say, come over for dinner unless you have your calendar out and you literally know that you can do that. And then you do that, right? Because now you've said it. Now you've set something in motion. Now that intention has created a reality for yourself and that person, right? Now to stop that bullet, you're going to have to get in front of it and get hit. I suggest you don't set it into motion unless you actually want it to hit bullseye, right? So you think and you monitor your thoughts and you be responsible about feelings that you set into motion, because all of them have a life of their own. And yes, we are profoundly powerful beings that are responsible for what we utter, for what we allow to exist, and what we think and what we feel. What do I do if I have set something into motion like that? I call them up and I be responsible and I say, you know, I realized that I spoke too soon. My schedule this week is actually literally full. Would it be okay with you if we reschedule for next week on this date at this time? Or please tell me what works out with you, and I will make it up to you by making myself available at a time that works for you. So you take the consequences and you make them your own. You be responsible for what you've set into motion because you can, right? So that's what I would suggest. Like, be a person of integrity.
You make it so simple too, because I feel like, I don't know what it is since I was young. There's something like, I'm avoiding it. I don't want to make them upset when I'm making it a bigger problem. But if you just really take accountability and own it, and what you said to me actually feels really good. It feels powerful, and it feels like, oh, they genuinely care about seeing me, so we'll reschedule.
Right. Instead of not calling them and like
avoiding
them for the next year.
Yeah. I think also it's funny. I don't know if it's LA culture. Every time I would make plans with someone, we both knew on both ends it was 50-50.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Oh my God, I hate those words.
Yeah.
Like, I can't see what happens.
And I think people say
Tell me if I can put in my schedule.
Well, I don't think people say it as it's almost a way to end a conversation. Let's do dinner. Yeah, great. Like, I'm going to call you next week. Or it's just something to say when you leave.
Well,
and
I
it's
always
not right.
say, when next week?
Right. That's why you're powerful. It's like, okay,
like,
don't
do
mess
you
with
really
her.
mean that? Is it, you know, and listen, when you're a powerful person with intentionality, not everybody wants to deal with you, but that's okay. Life is so much simpler.
That's a very good point. Maybe people think you're too much or it's too stressful.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
But
like, be yourself. Because then you just know you're clear, you're concise, you're clean, you're elegant. You know, when next week? Okay, great, Thursday. Thursday when? I'll make sure it's in my schedule so that I'm available at that time to have this conversation with you. Because otherwise, we just said something and nobody means it. And then why am I having that conversation? Why would I do that to myself?
When I'm really thinking about what you're saying and processing it, I'm like, it actually all comes back to you have to be 100% integrity. It can't be in some areas of your life. And it really comes to just saying what you mean and meaning what you say and being yourself. I think maybe the fluff is because people are just trying to be polite, but you can just be yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather you tell me you don't like me and you don't want to get together with me.
Right.
That's okay with me. You know, I'm not in a popularity contest, and not everybody has to like everybody. I don't think it's necessary. And so why would we be inauthentic like that? You know, it's really okay if you don't want to get together with me next week or at any time.
And being yourself, right? Just being yourself. Something you said about when you're truly yourself, your authentic self, and you really connect with people, you always belong. And that really hit for me. It reminds me of Gary, actually, because I've never met someone who's more themselves in a room, and he belongs with everyone. It's why he could fit in with 70-year-old women and a card game, or he could fit in with 12-year-old kids or my Persian family or American culture. Because he's simply himself, and it connects deeply with people.
And I think people like Gary, they belong with themselves first. They're comfortable in their own skin, you know? And it's really important to belong with yourself first. Have a sense of belonging with you. I'm okay with me. And it's okay that you may have any opinion about me. I'm not trying to, control your opinion of me. I'm going to allow your opinion of me. It's okay with me that you have an opinion of your own. But I think people become annoying when they're bent on controlling your opinion of them.
Yeah, they act differently to make sure that you like them.
Yeah, yeah. And then you don't. Or you do. I mean, it's a hit or miss. Whereas if I just allow you to have your opinion of me, that's okay too.
Be okay with people not liking you. Just be okay. It is all control. It's like I'm going to act perfect so that I can control how they feel about me, and they're going to like me, and I'm going to belong.
Yeah. And, we waste so much of our energy that way. And then if it doesn't work out the way we wanted it to, we go and start arguing with ourselves. Why did you do that? Why did you say this? How come you acted that? I mean, oh my God, it's draining, because, and then we want to control ourselves after. Now I don't want to be unhappy. And then how do I make myself happy? And, then you're trying to control how badly you feel about having not been able to control how they felt about you. And it becomes truly, truly miserable. Whereas it's okay, allowing that to be the way it is. And sometimes it doesn't go our way. And that's okay too,
Right, that part too.
Yeah.
You have to be authentic and, I guess, have that integrity for yourself no matter what the circumstance. If it goes the wrong way, you can't then change. And you have to be okay with it.
Yeah. And you know what I found is really powerful? I've made a lot of faux pas in my life, like said the wrong things at the wrong time to the wrong person or to the right person. What I found really powerful is having the integrity to go to that person and say, that thing I said to you the other day, I'm really sorry about that. I wasn't thinking correctly. And then when I thought about it later, this is what I really wanted to say. And having that conversation, I never knew how incredibly powerful the ability to change your mind and having an upgraded conversation is. And people think that it's the end of the world, whereas literally, have the next conversation. It doesn't have to be that you leave the other person with a mistake of yours. You can actually go up to them and say, I'm really sorry about that. When I thought about it, this is what I really think. I didn't really have that much time to think about what I said. In retrospect, this is what I think. It's okay to have a revision. It's okay to have a retake.
Yep.
They do it in Hollywood all the time,
Why are we pretending that we're humans that don't sometimes change our mind or make a mistake?
Yeah.
It's
or put our
okay.
foot in our mouth, literally, a
Yeah.
lot.
You briefly talked about communicating with the universe. And depending on who's listening to this, where they are in their spiritual journey, it could sound totally woo-woo, or it could be like, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Just give us is it, because I think I've gotten to a point in my consciousness level where I'm just getting to the point where I look at plants like they have consciousness, and I look at every living thing like it is, it is a thing with consciousness.
It is intending to be a couch.
Yes. How do people communicate with the universe? What's like a way they can start? Is it actually just having that thought and that connection is enough, or is it doing a good deed every day for the universe?
You're really digging a
I
deep
am.
hole for me right now. Okay. So,
I'm going there.
right, you're going there. I think it has to start out with at least the premise that we create our reality. That reality isn't something solid, like you and I are both agreeing on the same reality. I can have my own reality sitting here, and you can have your own reality sitting here, and that they're both okay. You know, the minute that I can accept responsibility for what I choose to be real for me, I have taken the first step. I'll give you an example. There was a time that we thought that if we put something under the microscope, and I look at it and Mona looks at it, we're going to see the exact same thing. And then came quantum physics. And then we realized, oh, you know that thing under the microscope? I actually, the observer, has an effect on what I see under that microscope. You, the observer, have an effect on what you see under the microscope. So we're not both going to see the same thing.
And this has been proven.
Right?
This is actual science.
Right? Mm-hmm. So when I saw that, I started digging deeper, like, okay, wait a minute. And then I realized, oh, you can have a glass of water, and I can have a glass of water, and I can pray on that glass of water, and then I can test the crystals of that glass of water, and the crystals of that glass of water are going to look phenomenal and beautiful. And you can use cuss words on that glass of water, and the molecules of that glass of water are going to become murky and yellow, and that I can have impact on that same glass of water. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. My thoughts, my emotion, my words, all impact the world outside of me. That's one thing, and it's truly okay with me. But those same thoughts and emotions and words impact the world inside of me. So what am I doing to my insides? How do I become an ugly person? What am I containing inside of myself? So as a psychologist, as a therapist, I am deeply concerned about what people hold inside of them, because it's causing all kinds of dis-ease that we then have to treat with all kinds of pills and things. Well, why don't we just heal our insides and pay attention to what we're causing inside of ourselves, or holding as a container inside of ourselves? You're very involved with people putting things both inside of themselves and doing to themselves, and even putting on their hands or any kind of energy around them. And I have so much respect for what you're doing with your life and with your energy. And I, on my own end, I'm deeply concerned about what you contain inside of yourself. You know, you say, I'm depressed, or I'm OCD, or I'm ADHD, or I'm bipolar, or I'm, you know, whatever terms you put on yourself. Don't. Because you're going to believe it.
You know, I think some people say it a lot, and I found that they believe it's giving them power
And then they
to
go
own
and
it.
look at all the things that have been written about it, and they go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm this, I'm this, I'm
And
this.
they like
No, you're not.
identifying with it. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm like, don't say it. Even like, I've told my doctors, if there's anything wrong ever, don't say it to me ever. I don't want that label, and I don't need that information going inside my body.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I learned a very big lesson from one of my mom's cousins. When I was 7 years old, she was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And I remember the entire family crying, and we were at her house. And I walked straight into the kitchen. I was like 6 or 7 years old, and what does a 6 or 7 year old think? So I walked up to her and said, Louise Khanum, are you dying? That's what 6 or 7 year olds think, right? She's dying.
Mm-hmm.
And she smiled at me. I will never forget this. And she said something to me that totally impacted my life. She said, I have cancer. Cancer doesn't have me. Now, it has taken me a good part of, I think I was maybe in my 30s when I finally understood what she had said to me. Because cancer never had this woman. Never. They had no cure for her. And she had determined that she would live to see her grandchildren get married. And this woman willed herself to live. There was no cure. They had declared her dead in 6 months after she was diagnosed. She lived another 36 to 38 years beyond what was feasible. This woman willed herself to live. And I realized that we are so profoundly powerful. What are you saying to yourself? Things don't have you. Bipolar doesn't have you. ADHD doesn't have you. OCD doesn't have you. Things that maybe you are diagnosed with loosely don't have you. You have you. You determine. You overcome. You find the solutions. So what I think about our partnership with the universe is live by declaration. And if your declaration is, I'm a profoundly powerful being, and I say I am happy, I say I'm beautiful, I say I am well and healthy and lovable and successful and real and authentic and in a loving relationship and plentiful, then take the steps to have that become your reality. And don't give up. Don't ever, ever, ever give it up until you get there. You stand for that, and just make it happen. So you cause reality. Reality doesn't cause you,
Yes.
And I really have seen that with people. I've seen my clients declare being cancer-free and achieving cancer-free in a year from stage 4 cancer. And the doctor is telling them, I don't know what you did, but good for you. Keep it up.
And it's just an everyday, they're writing it down, they're telling themselves.
Living it from
it.
inside out, letting go of all negativity, and embracing life, forgiving yourself for all of it, being happy, being joyous, being healthy, seeing yourself, not saying it, seeing yourself as healthy. Because seeing is one step above saying.
Mm-hmm.
Visualizing your health, seeing all of your body healthy and embraced in light, and all the molecules of your body loving each other. Because what is cancer? Isn't it a war that's going on inside of you? One part of the body is attacking.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? Isn't it like armies? Yeah, so make peace, right? Make peace inside of you, because that's what's happening.
Fill yourself with love, with light, and make it a peaceful environment.
Yeah. So as it is on your inside, it is on your outside, right? How come we see people as beautiful? Because they've told themselves that. I'm beautiful.
That's for sure.
They manifest. And they manifest that way. And they take care of themselves. It's not like, I mean, I don't like some people who just like, no matter what they do, they're pretty. Like, really annoys me. You know those people? Like,
Yes.
what is it? Like, how come you're like that all the time, no matter what you eat? I have to work at it.
That's funny. Okay, that's so clear and beautifully said.
At the simplest level of it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then really write down for yourself what you want to be real for you, and manifest it and visualize it and live it and take steps towards it. No matter what the outside world wants to tell you, believe it, that this is so. And it becomes so.
You have to believe, no matter, because sometimes it's like multiple people from the outside, and then your logic gets in. But you have to believe yourself. You have to believe more in what you feel than everyone else.
Well, I'll take it one step further. Use all the people who don't believe in you as your angels for becoming that much stronger. Like the weights in the gym. You know, you have to have resistance to build muscle, yes? So those angels are there so you can prove to yourself and build your muscles. So use them, love them. You know, they're there for a reason. They are your angels. They are the people who give you the ability to keep going because they disagree with you. You know, because it's important.
Well, that perspective shift is proving your point of no negative thoughts, of just looking at everything as an opportunity, as a way to make you grow, as a way to make you stronger. Even not looking at those, let's say someone's doubting you, like he's a jerk or he doesn't know, he's just trying to make me feel bad. Like that's negativity in your own body, even those thoughts.
Yeah.
So it really benefits you.
I thank you for disagreeing with me. I thank you for not liking me. I realize that I have to work so much harder, right? So thank you for that.
I want to talk about dating, and this is a perfect segue because...
Thank you for not liking me.
Well, I've gotten to this point in my consciousness where I have a hard time. I used to look at someone and be like, oh my God, that person's just a horrible person. And maybe rightfully so at the moment. But now I have a really hard time believing or telling myself that anyone's bad because in the back of my head, I'm like, everyone's good deep down. Like, what's going on? There was that metaphor once that we all have this like bright shining light inside of us and it's covered with dirt. And the more you clean it off, inside everyone is this bright light, but some people just can't get all the dirt off. So with dating and maybe with the men in your workshop, do you ever ask them like why men hurt women? Or do you understand or do you talk about why they do it? And can you maybe give us some clarity? Because I don't think everyone's bad, but there are so many men who do hurt women.
Well, first of all, if you are hurt, be responsible for your own hurt. You know,
Emotionally first, right?
Yeah, people can't hurt me unless I allow them. So be responsible for your own hurt and do something about it instead of saying that woman hurt me or that man hurt me. Be responsible and say, I put myself in a position to have this experience and what can I learn from it? And then go after learning that lesson and growing from it. Because for sure, you chose that lesson for a reason. And that is what I mean by 100% responsibility. Now, in terms of dating, I think that a lot of people go dating like they go shopping. You know, they're bored, they walk into a store, they don't know what they're looking for, and oh, wow, this is nice, I think I'll buy it. You know, dating responsibly requires that you distinguish two things. One is, am I dating to just have a good time? You know, is it like, you know, I'm just bored, I don't want to be by myself, or I want to get some experience, or I'm dating for sex, or I'm just dating to date, you know? Or am I dating because I'm looking for a long-term committed relationship? These two are not the same. Like, like you're driving in your car and you have like a tent in your car and some camping chairs and you go, oh, this is a nice place. I think I'll camp, right? And you put up the tent and, you get out the things and it's a nice place. Now, you don't then say, I think I'm going to live here in my tent with my camper chairs, right? So you can't go camping and then like live there for the rest of your life with what you brought with you, right? Dating for a long-term committed relationship requires preparation, requires, having an architect, requires drawing some maps, requires getting permits, requires a very serious commitment to what you're going to then live in and permanently or for a long time. So it isn't the same tools. And when people don't distinguish that, they get themselves in trouble. And 90% of the people that I see getting themselves in trouble is because they think the tools with which they go camping is the same tools as a long-term commitment, like having a house. A rental usually doesn't turn into a place you buy, So it's important to distinguish what you're looking for. What kind of dating do you really want to do? If you're dating to just have a great time, great. Like, just go out with people and have a good time. And, it lasts as long as it lasts. And you don't really have to worry about how it's going to go. Have a good time. And I think that's important. But then if you're looking to date for marriage, now you've got to figure out, or a committed relationship or a long-term relationship, you got to ask yourself, what do I want this relationship to look like? What does this person have to have? Who do I need to be to have that person show up in my life? What kind of person would that person go out with? And then do I have those characteristics? It's a more serious endeavor than just showing up. And like, oh, wow, I hope this person fits,
Right.
So it's a totally different ballgame. So then.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
If you're a single girl and you want to get married, instead of just dating and hoping that some guy wants to commit, envision your dream man, your husband.
Plan
and
it.
All the integrity he has, I'm assuming that's what most women are looking for. The loyalty, the respect, what would he look for in a woman? And really, you're creating this. So how do I embody that woman versus just hoping something sticks?
Yeah. So a lot of women say, I want him to be like this, and I want him to be responsible, and I want him to be loyal, and I want him to have integrity, and I want him to tell the truth, and I want him to be healthy, and this, that, the other thing, educated, have money, all this, right? Good looking, nice body. And then I look at them and I'm like, you want all that? Okay. Are you all that? No. Well, why don't we start with renovating?
Right.
Like, get you there. So that guy can choose you, because that guy also has requirements. And are you a match? So you gotta, if I'm gonna buy a Chanel bag, I better have the money, right? Unless you want a fake Chanel, in which case, whatever. But like, you've gotta prepare yourself inside and out. And I see a lot of people, they prepare the outsides, but they don't prepare the insides for that relationship. They're only preparing the outsides. You've got to prepare your insides. You've got to be the person to be able to go beyond the first 4 or 5 or 6 dates. And then a lot of times I also see this, Mona, and this is maybe where I'm going to lose some of your listeners. We're like the microwave society right now. We want everything quick. So we want relationships quick. So I see a lot of people jumping into bed right away in dating or having sex or moving in together or, all of that. And I think that we miss out on true intimacy because we really don't give intimacy an opportunity to develop between us, to really get to know each other, to really know who this person is, and are they a match for me before exchanging body fluids. So a lot of intimacy happens very quickly. But that's like giving birth, after the fetus is like 2 or 3 months. You're bound to have problems. So relationships take time to develop. Intimate long-term relationships need time to develop, to mature. I'm sure you know this in your own life. It takes something to really get to know this person.
Yep. And I've had this argument with so many people who say, like, women are empowered by, like, if they want to get in bed early, that's their choice. And like, here are so many examples of people who slept together the first night and ended up getting married. I'm like, yes, I'm not saying it can't.
And they ended up getting divorced 7 years later, maximum. A lot of them.
Yeah. Or how do we know how good their marriage is? And I'm not, to each their own. My opinion on this is I just can't imagine most women do want to just have sex once and not have a guy call them, not have any intimacy, because it's two souls, two bodies, like you're connecting. I think it's looked upon way too lately. I've always felt this.
Yeah. And, really literally to each your own. People make your own choices. My recommendation is get to know each other very well, because sex does change our dynamics. For us as women, we get impacted by oxytocin all too frequently, and we bond terribly. And then even if the person is not right, we're not thinking correctly. We're impacted by our hormones, and we're not choosing correctly. And we see things that are not there, and then we consult with our friends. Do you think, he said this, did he really mean it? Is he serious? Take the steps. I have this CD called The 12 Stages of Romantic Relationship that was actually created by my husband, right?
Oh, interesting.
And how my husband got to the 12 stages of romantic relationship is he had never been in a relationship with a woman who literally wasn't willing to jump in with him and get intimate right away. And he realized that romance and romantic relationships actually have stages. And then he created 12 stages of romantic relationship because of the lesson that he got out of the relationship that we had. Because he'd had many relationships and marriages. And it wasn't until we got into our relationship, and I'm like a firm believer in taking it slow, that he realized, oh, wow, let's take the stages seriously. Let's go through the stages.
And it's the one that stuck.
And it's the one that stuck.
Yeah.
25 years later, come August 21st.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you guys doing anything special?
Yes, I'm coming back from Armenia that day.
You have your life mission.
It's very special. Yes, we're celebrating the 25th. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've always thought love was the most important thing. When you were talking about your workshop, how we figured out our life's purpose, I remember you called me up as an example for that. And mine, lo and behold, was just love and family.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense to who I am and who I am in my soul.
And how much work you've done on your love and your family, and having your family work out, and making sure that everyone in your family is okay with each other, and able to get together around you, and healing the family rift and all of that stuff.
You always
You know?
point things out to me that I'm like, wait, you're right. I do so much for my family, and I don't even realize what's
Yeah.
going on in the
And
background.
even your brother moved to New York when you did.
I'm not being like, oh, I'm the center, but I feel like I'm a connector with everybody.
Yes.
And I guess
Yeah.
it makes sense because my soul knows what I want,
Yes.
and it's family.
Yes.
We just talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's your village.
My village.
I
I'm a
told
villager.
Mona she likes villages.
She's like, you're a villager. And I'm like, wait, I am, because I really think my ideal vacation is going to a little village in France and like walking around and going to the farmer's market.
and getting to know everybody.
Getting to
and
know the
saying,
locals.
Bonjour.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing to me.
I buy my bread here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to plop on a beach. I want to be in the little village.
Yes. Yes.
There is this whole ghosting thing that happens now with so many men. I mean, of course, women too. Do you think like the men are bad, or do you think it's again, we have to take responsibility? Like, what is the situation? Do you think women are bringing it on themselves? Which, don't shoot me for saying this, anyone listening.
I think that one of the things that happens is we don't really interview each other, and we don't allow other people to be honest with us, and we don't pay attention to signs that somebody is not being honest with us. We get enamored by outsides, by fashion, by looks, by what we want to hear. And we don't give time to really get to know who this person is before we invest emotionally, instead of investing emotionally in ourselves and being somebody who can actually energetically sense what's coming and happening around us. We become emotional instead of focusing on how am I feeling with this person, you know?
Yep.
And how am I feeling about myself with this person, right? And then allowing time instead of jumping in and like becoming infatuated or like really getting enamored by someone. And then if that person is not there, allowing that instead of, okay, well, the person decided to disappear. And then one of the things that I see is we move too close to other people, and sometimes we don't realize that maybe that person is not comfortable with all of that closeness right away, and they're freaking out. The other thing that I've seen, you know what question people don't ask?
What?
Are you married?
But I
They
think
don't ask.
they assume the person's not
Well,
if they're
this
coming up to
person
you, right?
wants to go out with me, clearly they're single. No, they're not. And you know why they disappeared? Well, I mean, they've got a family. That's why they disappeared.
I mean, I guess we should not assume
I
people
see
coming up
this
to us.
so much.
Yeah, I mean, you're the therapist. You probably see this a lot.
And
My God.
like 9 out of 10, literally, Mona, 9 out of 10, the person comes in like heartbroken, devastated, their life like suicidal, whatever, homicidal also. They come in, you know, and I'm like, did you ask her or him whether they're married or in a relationship or recently broken up? No. Never came up? No. You never asked them about their past relationship? Like, how recent was that? No, everything was going so well.
You told me that once. I remember being so confused why someone wasn't committing. And you said, did he ever verbally communicate that you were in a committed relationship? And I'm like, no. You're like, why are you assuming?
Why are you in a relationship?
But it's so funny because I think you're just like, you confuse the lust for real intimacy.
Or even attention. I mean, you're a beautiful
Attention.
woman. Of course, somebody's going to want to hang out with you, but that doesn't mean that you're in a relationship.
Exactly.
It just means we're hanging out.
Yep.
And, you know, men hang out.
So women or men, don't read between the lines. If you don't assume anything unless you actually have a conversation, you've communicated it, and there's clear boundaries.
Yes. And just a tip about men. Men don't communicate the truth in words. They communicate the truth in their actions. So you're with a man and he says, yeah, I'm looking for a serious relationship. I'm looking for a serious commitment. But then his behaviors are not one of somebody who is looking for a serious relationship or a commitment. You know, so he's not introducing you to his friends. He's not introducing you to his family. He's not telling you where he lives. He doesn't tell you about his family life. He doesn't tell you about his past relationships. He doesn't tell you about his income or his future plans. He doesn't tell you where he lives or how many children he has or anything really about himself. How is he serious? Mm-hmm. If all he wants is serious about groping you, you know? Did I say that?
You know,
Can I say
yes,
that?
you can, because I have had friends even now who
He's
are
seriously committed.
he's seriously committed to one thing. They're like, when I'm with him, it's great, and then when I'm not, I'm like, okay, because you're attractive. He can have all that attention for you, but it doesn't mean anything after. I've obviously learned it already.
And you know, women, we are like, there is something about our energy that just, you know, those signs that say, touch me, push the button here and I'll squeak. Mm-hmm. You know, those toys, you can't help it. You want to squeak them, right? Like, right? Those toys.
Ruby's
like,
toys.
Touch here, yeah. Right? Women are like that. You just want to touch, because our skin is so phenomenal and our energy is so incredible. And we're like toys, you know? So, I mean, we attract that energy of touch me, squeeze me here, squeeze me there, right? So it's natural, but it doesn't mean anything. It just means you have a sign on you that says, squeeze me, touch me, kiss me, hug me, you know, caress me. That's the energy we come with, right?
Yep.
It doesn't mean that if they're attracted to that vortex, that it means they're committed or that they're in love. So don't confuse things. And then there's some men that I've seen that have that same energy.
Yeah.
It is incredible. When men have that,
Like where women just
I
want to
always
go
think
touch
they're
them.
evil that they have that. I'm like, how come you have that energy? Why are you a vortex? Right? You've seen men that they just like, you can't help it. Like when they're in the room, you have to look at them, but you're like, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
I'm not staring at that guy.
Yep.
Right? They have that energy. Like, what is wrong with you? Why do you have that energy? Like, but some men have that. It's crazy. But yes, like you just want to go over to them and like do this to them or something.
Or they're just,
Like, is that real?
you can't look away. Yes. No, that's like, let us have our thing. That's a female thing. Don't take that from us.
I'm the squeezable.
Yes.
I'm the Charmin.
One more question I have about dating, because I think this comes up a lot for friends, women, and men too. If you don't have that butterfly feeling, is that like, I think some people are looking for that, and if you don't have it, are you settling or not necessarily?
Well,
Like, should it be so like exciting and like, oh my God, I can't breathe without this person? Or can it just be like, oh my God, he's great, we have a really nice time together, and it slowly builds, and then that's your person?
yeah.
Where,
I think it depends on the person too. Some people I know literally avoid the butterfly. They are freaked out by it. When they have that feeling, they know to avoid the person because they feel so vulnerable, so out of control. They want to have nothing to do with it. So I think that it's different people, different things.
that makes sense.
And then there are the adrenaline junkies, like must have adrenaline to feel anything because they're so numb that they require adrenaline in order to bond with anyone. It's required for them. I think the two ends of the spectrum are both extreme, right? So somewhere in the middle probably is the safest place, where you have excitement, of course, and joy at getting to know someone and curiosity and looking forward to it, right? At the same time that you're not crazy on hormones to the extent where you can't think straight, you don't think to ask the right questions, to be so out of control that you don't care what's happening. All you want to do is be with the person, literally under any circumstances, no matter what. So I think that somewhere creating a friendship, which is the most important thing, where this person is your best friend, where you can be all of yourself with them, where you can discuss things, where you can have fights and work things out with them, where you're not afraid to have fights or stand up for yourself or disagree with them because you think, oh, this person's going to leave me if I stand up for myself. In fact, allowing that to happen, like if you have to stand up for yourself, even at the risk of this person leaving you, you must do it. Because what good is that relationship if all you're doing is giving up of yourself as to keep the person? You know, because they're going to leave anyway. Because at some point, there is no more of you to give up.
That's going back to just being yourself.
Yeah.
And being authentic.
Right. So I think it's important to have the feelings, but I think it's not as important as creating a very deep, intimate bond with someone where you and them have the best life and the best relationship, and you can't wait to be with each other, and you'd rather be with them than anyone because of the depth of the relationship, because who you get to be with that person is more of yourself, not less of yourself. If you have to be less of yourself with someone, I would seek help. I would seriously think about getting help.
I mean, I know I've been there. I'm sure people have been there. It's the worst feeling. I've been on both extremes. I'm on the good extreme right now. And I just find myself getting like sillier and sillier, just like laughing more, coming back to who I was as a kid almost. And where you lose as you mature and go through different phases of life. And I guess I can just say from experience, it's the best feeling. And it brings out the best in you.
Yeah. And where you have the best time with that person, no matter where you are and what you're doing, even they're in the other room just reading a book and you're like overjoyed that you're in the same space.
Their presence and just being in the same space just brings you peace and joy.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling.
And you know when you're there.
How's our time? It's 12:30. 12:30. Okay. I want to touch upon one more thing, so we're perfect.
Good. Thank you for being so patient.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? I'm like, I know they would like this one. Actually, I didn't write this one down, but I would love to talk a little bit about modern parenting. I think there's so much confusion right now on what we should teach our kids, what we shouldn't. There's woke culture. Then there's also just this interesting thing Gary and I talk about a lot, which is the lack of respect a lot of kids have for their parents in the way they talk to them. That wasn't allowed for, a lot of immigrant culture or, years ago. So I'm just curious overall, like, what have you seen working well right now or not working well right now with parenting?
Well, I just did a youth workshop in Toronto. And this was the first time I was doing the youth workshop after COVID. And I got to experience firsthand what has happened to our kids. And these kids were 9-year-old to 16-year-olds, right? And I saw the devastation of children being really shy, not self-expressed, or wildly self-expressed and out of control. I saw the devastation of video games and the culture of violence, but I mean, horrible violence. I saw how much bullying is happening, how kids have turned to drugs, alcohol, vaping, marijuana, overeating, starving themselves, anorexia. I mean, we had the whole spectrum in the workshop, bouncing off the walls to the extent where they couldn't sit still in their chairs, kids who have been medicated. So, I mean, I saw all of that. I also saw parents who desperately want to get help for their kids and being very afraid to set boundaries because they're going to be bad parents or social services is going to be after them because they said no to the kid and the kid became violent, and then the kid called social services and they arrest and take the parent away. So, or the parents are so afraid that if I call the cops on my violent child, they're going to take my kid and put him in foster care, and then what am I going to do?
Yep.
Right? Or all of this. And parents are like beside themselves. And then the kids who are constantly on their phones, constantly in their tablets, constantly on Apple Watches. By the way, we took all the phones away, all the Apple Watches away. They weren't allowed to have any watches or phones.
Love that.
I know, right? And it was constant. What time is it? Same time as a half hour, right?
Yeah.
Is it time to eat yet? Is it time to go yet? Right?
As an ex-phone addict, let me just tell, it is so nice. The last 4 years, my phone is in the other room on airplane all morning on the weekends. I don't care.
Yeah.
Sorry, just had to say.
Yeah,
It's possible to change.
And to one of the things that happened was, we gave the power back to the parents and gave them the confidence that you actually do know what's good for your child. This child actually did choose you as the parent. Stop second guessing yourself. Stop wondering whether it's okay for you to say absolutely no drugs in this house, absolutely no vaping in this house, absolutely no, you're not going for a sleepover, absolutely no, video games without your homework being 100%. I'm going to talk to your teacher. I'm going to homeschool you if I don't like what's happening in your school, or I'm not putting you in this school, or no, you can't have those friends, and no, I don't agree with this, and no, I'm not going to give you whatever amount of money you want, or you're not old enough to have a phone or your own tablet or your own computer. I mean, parents were looking at me like, is seriously okay to say that? I'm like, yes, it's your house, your rules.
What are they afraid of?
Well,
The kid not liking them?
the kids throwing temper tantrums of all kinds. So it was really interesting because something really interesting did happen after the workshop. Because I told all of these facts to the parents in front of the kids. And the kids were like,
And what's the age
stop
of the kids?
talking. 9-year-olds till 16.
Okay.
Right, so I had the workshop with the kids for 3 days. Yes, they lasted, all of them, for 3 days. And then I brought the parents in, and in front of the kids, I told the parents the rules, right? Your kids have to clean their room every day, right? They're only allowed, if they have a phone and have phone privileges, this amount of time on their phone. No video games, this, that, the other thing, like, right? All of this. And the parents are looking at me like, seriously, we can do this? So the parents get empowered. They go home. They put down the rules. The kids act out.
Okay.
Parents took the phones away. The next day we had an event. These kids were so well behaved. They all came to the event nicely, neatly, wonderfully dressed, accompanied their parents, sat at a table, ate their food, socialized politely with each other. It was a whole new world. Right?
Wow. It's because there was
the
repercussions.
phones got taken away. There were consequences. The parents became parents. They realized that I am a parent, I have a right, and something interesting happened. I told the parents it's their house. It's not my room, it's your room that you have the privilege of living in my house that I paid for, that I continue to pay for. And this is not a right, it's a privilege that you have. I give you this privilege as long as you abide by my rules that I make for my house. Oh, by the way, in this house, you do laundry, and I said this in front of the parents, you do laundry, your own, and sometimes mine, and you help out with folding. You wash dishes, you clean up, you help around the house, because it's our house that you have the privilege of living in. I am not the maid and the driver and the banker and the cook and the dishwasher and the laundry lady, and, the maid. I'm like,
Yep.
it was so refreshing.
Wow.
And parents were telling me, my kid did laundry today. Oh, they cleaned their room. Oh my God, it's a miracle. What happened in 3 days?
Yeah.
So what do I want to tell parents? Be parents, for God's sake. Stop being afraid. Stop thinking that you're going to mess up your kids. I don't agree with verbal or physical abuse. I'm very much against that. I do believe in standing your ground. I do believe in you being firm. I do believe in you having clear boundaries and rules. Verbal abuse of any kind should not be tolerated on your part as well as your kids. So I train parents to be powerful but not controlling. To be powerful means you don't yell and scream and, use obscenities when you're telling your kids not to do that. You be polite. You teach by example. You don't lie. You do what you say you're going to do. You don't make promises you're not going to keep. These things are important. So one of my requirements for the parents is they have to do the workshops. Because if they don't, how are they going to be doing what I teach the kids to do?
Of course.
And I teach the kids, a lot of the stuff that I talk to you about, the control strategies, the power.
You teach them that.
The ability to say no, don't touch me, having their own boundaries for their bodies, eating right, eating healthy, loving themselves, choosing right friends, choosing right activities, working out. These are things that are important these days. Very minimal amount of sitting down and doing nothing. Kids have to be active, 6 to 8 hours a day. They need to be active. They need to be doing things, learning things, reading, socializing with other kids, going out, playing, in the outdoors, having activities. This is important. And a lot of COVID kids spent behind a computer 8 hours.
Yep.
And that's tragic. And they didn't learn social skills. So get your kids out. Have them socialize with other kids. Put them on teams. Have them be with other kids, doing healthy things. Create projects for them. These are important things. And by all means, drug test your children.
That's an interesting one.
I'm an advocate of drug testing. And I say it right in front of the kids, too. Like, I don't hide anything. Like, if you suspect anything, if your kids are not cleaning their rooms, not studying, have a bad attitude, are in a bad mood all the time, are depressed, are wearing dark clothing, don't shower, have drastic mood changes, by all means get them drug tested.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
You have a right. As a parent, you have a right, especially if you're against drugs. As a responsible parent, I would also say it's really important that your liquor cabinet has a lock on it. I find too many parents very loose around liquor, and they think it's not a big deal. Those brains are not formed. They need to be 21. It's really important. Please protect your children. Protect them. Those brains on drugs, on alcohol, don't make good decisions for themselves. And so you have to be vigilant, be responsible. Don't get them kegs. Oh, it's just beer. Beer is alcohol. For all it's worth, whether you listen or you don't listen, just be a vigilant and responsible parent. It's important.
This all sounds like just fundamental things every parent, could do and should do to protect their kids.
Mm-hmm. And in your village,
In my village.
People, people are a lot more responsible, family oriented.
Yep.
Smaller towns I have found where people know everybody and people know each other. They watch out for each other's kids. They don't consider it like someone else's child, not my problem.
Yep.
It is all our children. You know that kid that you saw doing something and you didn't tell their parents? That kid could become your kid's best friend and take your kid down a dark alley. So for God's sake, you know, don't act like somebody else's kid is not important. Everybody's kid is important, you know?
Yeah, that's such a good point. You said something that I've talked about a few times with people, but it's always really stuck out to me and has been on my mind, which is respecting kids' boundaries with their bodies. And you know how you just have these like deep thoughts in regular situations, but you're like, people are going to think I'm weird. I'm not going to say it. I've thought about this for years. When you tell your 2-year-old or 3-year-old, like, go give so-and-so a kiss, or your 5-year-old and they don't want to, are you teaching?
When you make them,
when
never
you
mind
make
tell them.
Aren't you teaching
Hug
them something
uncle.
bad? Yes. I'm like, if you
I
don't
don't
want
wanna
to
hug
hug
uncle.
someone, don't hug them.
Yeah.
And I think, is that teaching them bad things as they grow up, like teaching humans to do things to make other people happy, even if
Does
you're
your
not
puppy
comfortable?
like everybody?
Oh, I don't let random people hug my puppy.
Yeah.
When they ask if they can pet, I say no. I'm like,
No, but like your
I
puppy
don't.
instinctively doesn't go to some people, right?
Exactly. She goes up.
Instinctively.
If she goes up,
Yeah.
that's great. But if she doesn't, I'm not going to make her.
Yeah. My puppy doesn't like our postman.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I allow my puppy loose around the postman, he'll bite the postman.
She
right?
doesn't like. There's some people at our front desk she loves, and there's one that always calls her, and she just walks right by. I'm like, you must have bad
Exactly.
energy. I don't know what to say. Sorry.
Or something, right?
There's something that doesn't
Right.
vibe here.
Right? They had past life together. They didn't
Yeah.
like
who
each
knows?
other.
Exactly.
But children are the same way. They instinctively are drawn to some people and they instinctively withdraw from others. And it's extremely important to respect that and to teach them that it is okay, that you're not a bad child if you don't like to hug everybody equally, and that that's quite all right, and it's very important. Now, this is different from teaching your children good manners,
Exactly.
which is you say hi to everyone, you be respectful, you shake hands with people. You know, this is different from manners. I've seen too many parents not teach their kids to say hi or be respectful with people, and then we don't teach them socialization skills. So this is a different thing. Yeah.
I agree. That was actually something I was going to say next. There's a way to be polite
Yes.
with also protecting your own boundaries.
We say hi to everyone. Yes. Following the thought about adults being responsible, so I grew up in Tehran, and Tehran is like a big city. It's like New York, right? So you would think in a big city, right? You can walk around as a teenager, smoke cigarettes. Nobody's going to, who's going to see you, right?
Yeah.
You know how many times I got busted in Tehran smoking cigarettes, and people got back to my parents? We saw your daughter smoking a cigarette in the park. Now, I call that responsible citizenship. People
I love that.
somehow, I don't know how they knew me and who they were, but they would call my parents and report that they saw me. And I went to an American school in Iran, and if a parent of one of the children that went to school with me saw me anywhere in Tehran and I wasn't behaving myself, do you know that they would call the schoolmaster and say,
Wow.
our school was like CIA. People knocked on you to this, and we were scared to death of our schoolmaster. She was this itty bitty, like 4-foot tall woman that we were terrified of. Like we saw her coming down the hall, and we literally like pulled it together.
Yeah.
Like she was terrifying. But yeah, they would report us. Like we saw so and so doing this and that, and we would get called into her office. Nobody wanted to be called into her office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But that's responsible citizenry, right?
right. You know,
Yeah.
she's not physically abusing you. She's not verbally
No,
abusing.
she just looked at us.
Yeah, my mom says, so my grandfather, you know, he's like everyone's favorite in our family. He has this, we all love him so much. My mom said growing up, he never yelled at her. He would just look at her and it was over.
Yeah,
The
that's
disappointment.
The worst.
Yeah.
I hate that look.
You know, my grandmother would
And
yell.
I hate people who have that look.
Exactly.
I wanted that look. I've never developed it.
You have that presence though.
Yeah, no. I have to really work at it.
Yeah.
But I want to have that look, you know, the look that like blood freezes in your veins. Yeah, my grandpa had that look.
And you love
I
them so
hate
much and
that.
respect them that you're so upset you disappointed them.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like, I don't want that look.
yeah, exactly.
No. I know. That grandfather look.
Yeah. Oh, I love him. There's so much that I got from this whole conversation. I was actually thinking every time I talk to you, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I'm fired up. Like, what am I going to do? Do you think it's like a good idea to make a little list and maybe you look at it every day, almost like a contract to yourself? How do I remember? Because sometimes you forget all the things you really want to commit to until it becomes who you are. Like, how can I take all of this?
I suggest that you don't overwhelm yourself, that you start with 5 important commitments. You know, like a commitment to your health and beauty and well-being and cleanliness becomes one commitment. The overall glow of you, right? So my glow commitment to myself, yes? And so you make promises along that line every day to yourself, like you do one thing, like 5,000 steps, or eating vegetables every day, or making sure that you look your best, that you love the way you look every day. And it could be just hanging out in your pajamas. It doesn't have to be complicated, right?
Yep.
But like your like glow commitment, right? Or that you learn something new every day, right? So I have that commitment.
Oh, that's
Learning
cool.
something new every day, something I didn't know before, right? So every day making sure I learn something, right? And then your love commitment, making sure that you express your love 5 times a day, right? Remind and to yourself as well, because a lot of times I say love commitment and people are like, they think it's all about somebody else, but no, like you better be on that list, right? Your work commitment, doing something that makes you feel like you're a responsible, useful human being is a work commitment, right? Like that's like special.
Yep.
Like I'm here. I make a difference in this world, and it could be your make a difference commitment. You do something that lets you know that your being here makes a difference. Isn't that like fantastic? Like
Yep.
if you have that every day of your life, like I make a difference, right? And then the other one I leave up to you.
I like
Have
that.
it be whatever that is.
And start slow. Don't over. I tend to want to jump in and then I don't do it all.
No, I'll say the 5th one.
Okay, say it.
Your spiritual connection. Do something every day to connect to the world. You know, be a part of it all. Because we forget so easily that, and we think we're alone, and we're not alone. We are profoundly connected. And I think a lot of people these days really need to know that they're not alone, that there's always love and guidance at all times if you just reach out your hand and reach out your energy and connect, right? And so I wasn't going to say it, but I had to say it because I feel like it's important for people.
I
yeah.
think that one's the most
The
important.
most important one, yeah.
Even this morning, I rushed to get up and get ready, and I said I could feel it. I needed 15 minutes of silence. And I got back in bed and closed my eyes, and it was just, there's just a trust you feel when you're connected to the universe.
Yeah. And it's something really delicious because like at the highest level of it, like we had this workshop in Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to picnic with the kids instead of having them be in a room. I wanted us to eat outside And you know, the weather in Toronto is like
You never
so
know.
freaking unpredictable,
Yeah, you never know.
right? It rained all 3 days, but never the time when I needed us to be out on the grass.
That's
Before,
amazing.
after, we had dry grass,
Wow.
right? So like really connect at the deep level with the universe, and like your life becomes truly, truly a magical experience every moment of it. It is a magical life. We are profoundly, profoundly powerful beings living this human experience. So like really get to know who you are. It's important.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation. I know people are going to want to know about your workshop and how to contact you, so just share that again if you can.
Sure. It's really easy to connect with our office. You can call us from anywhere in the world, either on WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp number is 818-914-1607. You can look for me on Instagram, Dr. Azita Sayan on Instagram. And then you can also call the US number, 310-460-2600. Or just look me up on Google, Azita Sayan. It's easy to find. Our website is also Embrace Growth, because you have to embrace growth.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.